I'm still a little bit weird about this because it's different for me to stream across platforms, and I'm seeing 3 of them online. There goes YouTube. All of you guys are with me now. Welcome. Hello. It's good to see you. It's good to see all of you on this Saturday afternoon. I just want to let you guys know that my work is, video-wise anyway, sponsored by the people over at Trump Coin. And they do a really, really great thing for me and help me to do this work. So I wanted to let you guys know that they have this awesome deal. And I have this stuff, so I'm not just saying this. It is a sponsored second here, but this silver coin that they have put together is absolutely stunning. And now they're coupling it up with this America the Beautiful coin that's put out by the Mint, and that's the size of it. It's really fantastic. So if you guys are interested, you guys can go to TrumpCoin2020.com and use the code TracyBeans25 to get a discount off. That's TrumpCoin2020.com and use the code TracyBeans25 and get your beautiful Trump coin and this American Freedom coin from them as well. Thank you guys. I wanted to go through and do, hey everyone in the chat, hi. I wanted to go through and do a couple things that I've been meaning to do all week, but Judicial Watch has been on fire with releases and stuff, and I've read them all. And I wanted to kind of do a summary video of all the stuff that came out in the Judicial Watch releases as it pertains to Bruce Ohr. And then I'm going to go over some stuff that I did you may have missed on Uncover DC in terms of the Epstein case. And then I'm going to talk about something else at the end. So if you guys have, I would say probably about 40 minutes to hang out with me on this Saturday afternoon. Hello in Portland. Hi, everyone. Arkansas. Well, hello, Arkansas. Louise. And just bear with me. This is live. If you're listening to a replay, this is live. So I'm saying hello to some of the people that are graciously giving their time to listen to me yammer on in Jersey. Hey, this is great. Okay, so let's start talking about some of the documents that have been released this week by Judicial Watch, shall we? We'll start off with the Bruce Ohr 302s. And in case you guys missed it, on the 8th, which was several days ago now, I did a thread about some of the things that I found in the 302s here as well. You know what? I might as well bring that up here. Not this, not this. It was this. So the first thing that I wanted to talk to you about was giving you a little tutorial, possibly, in case you don't know. Let me pull up my chat window again. In case you don't know, of how these FOIA releases work and what all of this stuff means. I don't know if you guys are aware, so I might as well just tell you. What they're going to do is tell you what sections of what reasons are given for the redactions in the places where things are redacted. And you can take a look at the form that they give on the front, and then they give you a table in most of these FOIA releases that Judicial Watch releases with the reasons. And sometimes, if you sit and you study these documents, the reasons that they withhold information can tell a story all in and of themselves. So if they say this little redaction, like let's say here, this is the 302s of Bruce Ohr. They say this is redacted for like B6. You can look back up at the chart at B6 and say personnel and medical files and similar files, the disclosure of which would constitute a clearly unwarranted invasion of personal privacy. And then they give you further detail in there. So you can kind of like narrow down what the heck is going on and figure out whether or not there's an ongoing investigation or whether or not something is being looked at still, etc. Hi from New York. Hi, New York and Oklahoma. So, okay, we've got that out of the way. I'm still working on this, so there may be more to come or maybe not. I'm not sure yet. But you could see there's a ton of redactions in here. Believe it or not, the redactions in here are not really all that important. Some of the things that they redact are just like, you know what they are already. You know, sometimes they're redacting stuff that's already been previously released. It doesn't make any sense. There's no rhyme or reason. I think that in and of itself is a complete issue that we need to look into in terms of why it is that the FBI or the DOJ is releasing documents to people, redacting things that we already know that they've released in other documents. For example, there have been a lot of things that have been released in the page instruct text messages. There was one page instruct text message release from the IG. There was one page instruct text message release from the committees, I believe, and some of them crossed over. As a matter of fact, I might as well show you this right now. I shouted out Nick Wheel. Oh. Well, that's not good. Hold on. Bear with me, guys. I like kind of just... Well, I don't like that. I like doing things with you guys kind of on the fly. Instead of planning it all out and making it all like, serious and stuff. That's why. There we go. So this is a website that I've used several times. It is really, really well done. This is called the SpygateProject.org. And as you can see, I just went to Nick's Twitter here. He's the one who contributed to creating this website. And I have found lots of value in this. If it's a resource you guys can all use that you may enjoy using, because what you can do is literally search the Peter Strzok and Lisa Page text messages by words. So, and by date. There's a slider up here, if you can see this, and you can slide to narrow down a date range here. And you can see texts between that date. So, for example, I was going through the Bruce Ohr files that we're about to go through together, and I was able to narrow down the Page Strzok text messages to a date range and find things in there that I needed, and also some things that I had forgotten about. So again, the SpygateProject.org. I don't know if Nick Wheel is his real name. I don't know him personally. We've said hello on Twitter a couple times, but this resource, I mean, look, and you know how usually you're trying to read these things and it says inbox, outbox, inbox, outbox, and you're just kind of scratching your head like, what the hell is going on? Who's talking to who? Who is talking to who? He put pictures up here of who it is. So Lisa Page's photo shows up and Nick and Peter Strzok's photo shows up. So you know who is talking to who. Then you can sort it by sender. You can sort it by day of the week. You can type in Walmart. Oh, it's not finding the Walmart people text. Well, hey, it's in there. We know it is. But anyway, you can type in Walmart and it'll pull up. It should pull up the Walmart text. But anyway, I have used this over and over and over again, and it is invaluable for Spygate resources. It really is a beautiful, beautiful thing that some intrepid people took upon themselves to go ahead and to put together for everybody to make it easier. This is why we're going to win, people. I'm just saying. For a researcher, I know a lot of you guys out there are. This kind of a thing, as long as like Just the Real News as well has an amazing website that he put together that releases tens of thousands of government documents every day. I don't know if it's every day, but he releases things every day. He's HeadSnipe01 on Twitter. I mean, these sorts of projects that people take up are amazing. And somebody commented, still zero Spygate arrests. And I wanted to make a point about that very thing. And again, this is kind of just like my live stream for you guys to talk about stuff because I haven't been on here in a couple days. So bear with me. We got an article the other day where it was admitted in the Hillary Clinton mid-year exam release that the inspector general put together the report and then testified in front of the committees, and that was all. Oh gosh, you're right, clown. I'll talk about that in a second. That was all. That was all put out there. They released it all the other night. Grassley had that letter, and then everything was attached to it, and then we got the possible Chinese connection and all of that stuff. There was an article written about it where it was said that an investigation was started because of what was reported in the media. And so I did a thread at the time on Twitter where I explained how important it is that the media is honest and has integrity, because if it doesn't, then investigations are started into bull rather than for real reasons. And you know that the circular reporting happens all the time, and they're investigating this as well, where somebody will, in the intelligence community, will leak something to the media. The media will report on it. This happened in the Carter Page FISA. And then they'll wrap it in again, and they'll use that to bolster the evidence that they were the ones originally leaking. So it's circular, sort of a circular bolster of whatever sad fact pattern they had put forward to begin with. So it's important that even though there have been no arrests yet, that does not mean by any stretch of the imagination that we stop talking about this, that we stop yelling about it, that we give up, that we wipe our hands, that we, walk away, that we get frustrated. Yeah, we want justice and we want people to be held accountable. I am still not in a place where I am ready to say that I don't think that will happen. I do think it will happen. So I'm not going to be one of those people yet. However, that even if we get to a point and they start saying they decline prosecution, that doesn't mean that we give up and we just say, oh, well, nothing's ever going to happen. Nothing's ever going to change. That means that we continue to share information and teach people what's going on so that we get to a critical mass where they don't have any choice but to respond. And that's what it's all about. And that's why, again, the media is important. And that's why the legacy media is a pile of burning rubble right now. And that's why we're taking their place. So that's all I have to say about that. But anyway, the 302s came out. I explained to you a little bit about how the redactions are done or why they're done and what they mean in this document. Really little or nothing. There are a few that I wish I knew the answer to. And I have my thread here, which I think I'm just going to pull up and show you this way. Oops. Bear with me. This is new for me. Again, I'll get used to it eventually. So here we are. There are some really important things in here. Kavalek, as we know, Kathleen Kavalek worked for the State Department, and Christopher Steele was in touch with her with his information. And John Solomon reported that Christopher Steele, there were memos between the FBI and the State Department, where Jonathan Weiner works. So Christopher Steele told Kathleen Kavalek about the Russian consulate in Miami, about Michael Cohen going to Prague, and all of that stuff. And Kavalek must have run through and checked that stuff out and basically doubted the validity of Steele's information. Okay? So because of that, we know that Kavalek doubted the credibility of Christopher Steele. Now, what other action she took or didn't take, or if she was in on it, I'm not positive of yet. But this release here was a big deal. So this page, which is very hard to see like this, basically says, Ohr advised Kathleen Kavalek, Deputy Assistant Secretary, Bureau of European and Eurasian Affairs, that the U.S. Department of State would be meeting blank representatives in order to discuss potential Russian influence in their upcoming presidential elections. And I personally feel that there is a country underneath that redaction, and I think that it possibly is the United Kingdom because Brexit was going on at this time. So this is what I think. It goes on in another kind of bombshell way, or reminded the interviewing agents that Kavalek did speak with Steele several times prior to the election and believed Steele's reporting to have generated from mainly blank. Now, if we take Bruce Ohr's testimony where he talks about the fact that he didn't know whether or not the information was verified, he didn't know whether or not the information was legitimate, etc., and we couple it with what he's telling them here in February of 2017, that's the date on this 302, we can surmise that I think that she's saying disinformation or some kind of negative, mainly bad sources, mainly disinformation, mainly bad intelligence, something to that effect is underneath this redaction here. That's what I really feel like it is. I want to see it. I don't know why we can't see it yet. If I investigated these redaction notes, I probably would be able to find out, but I haven't gotten there. Christopher Steele, in this is again in February of 2017, before the special counsel was appointed, and before Jim Comey was fired. But hey, Christopher Steele says here that he thinks that he's going to be working with the FBI even after he's been canned as a source and his business is tanking, because the dossier was released by BuzzFeed in January. So here it says Steele's company is continuing to work for both blank, another attorney for blank. However, Ohr explained Steele is beginning to worry about his business and was preparing a blank contract, I don't know, to broker a business relationship with the FBI. Steele advised Ohr, quote, "You may see me reemerge in a couple of weeks." Well, for goodness sakes. In February of 2017? Listen, this is what I'm saying about why I don't understand. I'm a little bit confused about why this hasn't gotten more attention, because this is after the dossier is published. This is after people start doing the research into what it says and the fact that it's complete disinformation. This is after, as much of a fraud as he is, Cohen says, "I was never in Prague. Look at my passport." Gotta turn on my light here. Hold on. And here Christopher Steele is talking to Bruce Ohr, saying, "Hey, I might actually be working again with the FBI. Just stand. You'll see me in a little bit. Stand by. It'll be fine. It'll be fine." Remember, this is also during the time period where Steele is working with Adam Waldman, the attorney who represented Deripaska and Assange, and Waldman is talking to Mark Warner, vice chairman on the Senate Judiciary Committee at the time, about a back channel to have Steele talk off the record and not putting things in writing. And this is also, I think, around the time that James Comey is trying to broker the immunity deal with Assange. And then Assange says he wants to, kind of provide all his evidence about Russia. And then Comey says, "I don't care if you release the Vault 7 files. I don't, none of that's coming out." Whew. Somebody in the chat is right now asking why is Bruce Ohr still working? Because if he's cooperating, which I think that he probably is, and I'll explain why I believe that in a moment, it is much easier for him or for them to keep him in occupation, paying him under the rules of the Justice Department in some position somewhere. He still has constitutional rights, so they can't stop him from pleading the Fifth. But there's a lot easier. It's a lot easier for the Inspector General and other government, inspector or government investigators to get information from him by using his job as leverage or pressure. So if he's trying to keep himself out of trouble and they want to keep him talking, it is likely that they have him still working for that reason. There's that. So this part really blows me away, and I don't to this day understand why not more people are talking about the fact that it appears from Bruce Ohr's 302s that Christopher Steele was negotiating a contract to work with the FBI as late as February of 2017. I'm just waiting for that to marinate for a second. Okay. Next. I really feel like Apple is attempting to discredit me and others by autocorrecting our words. And I shut it down. I shut it down for a day, and it was so much worse than I ever could have imagined. Like, my fingers are too big. I have a huge phone. It doesn't matter. My fingers are too big. So, whatever. Anyway, this appears here. This 302 seems to indicate, it couldn't get smaller. It's page 18. Let me see what I could do here. Hold on. Okay, this page seems to indicate that Steele is still working with the FBI as late as March. Was it page? Hold on. Oh, bear with me. Looks like it was 18. Maybe I'm wrong. I can't even read this. What am I thinking? Jeez, I'm sorry. So this 302 is from May of 2017, and I'm going to find it. We're in February. Here it is. WhatsApp, blah, blah, blah. Sorry, guys. That's not it. I don't know why I can't find the page that I'm referencing in my tweet, but I can't. So let me just talk about it. Steele was still working with Glenn Simpson as per this 302 as late as May 10th, 2017. And why is that important? Let's think about it for a second. First of all, there was a lawsuit that went on overseas because there was a gentleman whose name is escaping me right now who sued for defamation because Steele had talked about, I think it was in the December memo, Steele had basically said that he by name was guilty of working with the FSB and he had owned a lot of companies and he lost a lot of business. So he sued Steele for defamation, both here in the United States and BuzzFeed, by the way, both here in the United States as well as overseas. The issue here is that in the testimony that he gave under oath to both the UK they then took that UK testimony and used it here in the States in that court case as well. It states that there was another memo that came out in the dossier that was written December of 2016 after the election had already happened. Okay. So Christopher Steele said that he was given information or intelligence after he had already terminated his contract with Glenn Simpson of Fusion GPS. And he says that in December, he got this intelligence and he wanted to get it to somebody that could do something about it. So he sent it encrypted to Glenn Simpson and asked Glenn Simpson to disperse that information to Kramer, who had worked at the McCain Foundation with and had also worked closely with John McCain. So Steele takes this other information, this damning December memo information that supposedly was separate from Glenn Simpson's engagement that he just wrote up and then sends it over, but Glenn Simpson keeps it as well. And it was not paid for by Glenn Simpson. And this is an important point because supposedly now they're lawyering up. All of them are lawyering up. And as I'm talking this through with you guys, I'm thinking of a piece that I wrote for Uncover DC that I'm going to show you in a minute because it's really important. As they're lawyering up, they're getting scared. The House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, led by Devin Nunes, is trying to get the bank records of Fusion GPS so they can see who's funding what and you know what's going on and all of that stuff. And they're being sued left and right. And then Glenn Simpson comes in to testify, and he testifies under oath, and that's supposed to be closed. And then all of a sudden, Dianne Feinstein has a cold and sneezes, and out drops this Glenn Simpson testimony that was supposed to be behind closed doors and not released. Do you guys remember when that happened? I'm going to take a second and wait, and you guys tell me if I'm losing you or if you're following me, because it's a lot of information all at once. I'm just going to pause for just a second to get your feedback. Come on, comment. Comment, people. Anyone? Bueller? Let me pull up my Periscope on its own. Take a look. I'm just pausing because I don't want to lose anybody here because this is important. And comment. I don't want you to hear that. Here. I just want to see the chat. I don't want anyone to hear it. I don't see any comments. Let me tweet it. Okay, we're good. All right, I'm seeing people. Okay, very good. I'm sorry about the dead air. I'm still here, I promise. I just wanted to make sure you guys are following. So Dianne Feinstein sneezes out this transcript that's not supposed to be released, and everybody says it's because they want you to, they want to be able to get in front of the story and see what Simpson said. And now it's been proven time and time. It has been shown time and time again, I'm choosing my words very carefully, that the reason that Glenn Simpson lied, and there's a lot of examples of that we're not going to get into right now. But let's see if I can show you what I'm talking about. I shouldn't have done that. I'm not a pro, guys. I'm just one of you. I promise. I'm not a pro with broadcasting and producing is what I mean. Here we go. It was written a long time ago, and it didn't get the attention that I wanted. Here it is. So Jeff Carlson did a whole bunch of work on the 302, on the FISA warrant, and on the April 17th declassification of the FISA court opinion about abuse and all of that. And there was a release from the OIG way back in the day that nobody really knew what it meant. And I'm going to show you it now. It was released on January 29th of 2019. Here it is. Findings of misconduct by 2 current senior FBI officials and 1 retired FBI official while providing oversight on an FBI contract. And I want to show you, usually when you get an investigative summary, at least the past 3 or 4 we've gotten, it's the subject was referred for criminal prosecution and the DOJ declined to prosecute, right? Well, on this one, that's not what it says. It doesn't say that at all. It actually just says the OIG has completed its investigation and provided its report to the FBI for appropriate action. That was interesting to me. What it says is the OIG found that as a result of conduct by 2 current senior FBI officials as of January and 1 retired FBI official, the FBI contractor engaged in certain inherent governmental activities in contravention of the Federal Acquisition Regulations, which is the FAR. Additionally, the OIG found that these 3 FBI officials didn't adhere to Office of Management and Budget policy while managing the contractor, and the OIG found that the contractor failed to adhere to personal conflict of interest rules under the FAR. Now, I did a lot of work, I did a lot of research, and I think I nailed down what this means. And it has to do with Fusion GPS being a government contractor and performing what is an inherent governmental function, operating in a counter intelligence operation. And I was able to further validate this. Come on, Tracy. I was able to further validate this when I found a court transcript between Fusion GPS and the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, where they say that in the transcript, which if you guys have a Pacer account, guys, and you are on the website and you go to court cases, I would recommend the first thing you look for are transcripts. Read the complaint, read through it, kind of like internalize it, understand what's going on, and then read through any transcripts that are available. Even if it looks like it's a status conference and it's not going to mean anything, read it anyway, because you find the most amazing gems of information in there. I'm telling you. This one was bombshell for me. It says, in addition, the committee is seeking to determine whether there are any connections between Fusion and the intelligence community, which is part of what this information would be designed to obtain. Fusion GPS was fighting back against the government, the House Permanent Select Committee, saying we have no obligation to provide you our financial records when all you're interested in is how much we paid Christopher Steele. And that's a very small window of time. So I'm going to give you that little bit of information. Why do we have to open up our books to you and give you everything? And the government was like, well, you're assuming that we only want to know about Steele. We want to see who is paying you and what kind of relationship you had with the intelligence community. So when we know Fusion GPS, I'm nearly certain. I am honestly nearly certain. We haven't had any official release to this date that will prove this beyond a shadow of a doubt. But I am reasonably sure that Fusion GPS was functioning as a government contractor. And if you go to my website and you check out the article that I wrote where I incorporate a lot of Jeff at Market's work, just a brilliant reporter who I respect very, very much. If you take a look at Jeff Carlson's work into that FISA explanation where he explains, what Admiral Rogers did and what all the abuse was and how the contractors were abusing the 702 database and, how they were misusing that and why it all got stopped. The beginning of this story, like the Admiral Rogers beginning of it. Is everyone following me? If you take a look, it's all linked in there, and I credited him, obviously, when I used that to bolster what I was trying to say, that it all starts back there. Fusion GPS was being paid by Perkins Coie, who also hired Christopher Steele and Nellie Ohr, who was the wife of Bruce Ohr, who was top at the DOJ, who was laundering the same information back into the intelligence community again, into the FBI. So if you think, and then Steele was going directly to the FBI. So if you think about it, if you're going in front of a FISA court and you're pretending that all of these things are coming from different places, well, look, it's corroborated from Fusion GPS. Look, it's corroborated from Christopher Steele, who's an informant that we don't name. And we don't mention that he's being paid in the first FISA warrant, which we'll get into in a second. And look, here it is. It's coming from here. And here, the media is even reporting on this. Look at all these reasons that we have to start and open an investigation and get a FISA warrant into Carter Page. Take a look at this. It's all coming from the same place. So Nunes, the brilliant guy that he is, takes the House Permit Select Committee to sue Fusion GPS to get these bank records. Just to let you know, guys, they got them. So we haven't gotten anything leaking out on that, but they know. So whatever the case may be, that happens last year. And in October of 2017. That's when this transcript is from, October of 2017. Far before February when, not too far after February and March and May. After the special counsel, they were still fighting for this stuff, and they got it. And then in January of 2019, we get that summary report that came out, and to little fanfare, that caused me to write that piece up and do the work that I did to find out what was going on here. That has kind of silently moved into the background, and no one's paying attention to. And I just want to bring it up again because all of the signs point to what I'm saying. Could I be wrong? I could be. This is one time where I really don't feel like I am. So there's why I think that stuff. But it has to do with Bruce Ohr because Christopher Steele is still working with Fusion GPS and is still trying to weasel his way in with some big contract with the FBI, knowing that his business is failing, right in the midst of all of this going on. Moving right along. I have to drink a sip of water, and I hate drinking in people's ears. Okay. As of May 8th, 2017, they're in the process of lawyering up and getting their lawyers. They literally attach a Think Progress piece to the 302s. It is an article written by the farthest of far propaganda leftists, in my opinion, under, I believe, Think Progress is also a David Brock run organization. So if you think to the Share Blue, same animal, okay? And that's what they put at the end of their 302s. They actually literally make that a factual thing. That in and of itself just blows my mind because it's not like it's, I don't know, there aren't any. I was going to try and think of a legitimate. There aren't any. I can't. Anyway. There is another paragraph in the very beginning that is a mistake. They actually have a typo in here where they accidentally talk about, they accidentally say, before Ohr left blank redacted and joined or founded Orbis. Ohr didn't find or founded, Ohr did not create Orbis, obviously. So there's a typo there. Steele clearly isn't worried about anything, though, in all of this. It's clear he's still working out another deal with the FBI. That is just it. Paul Sperry reported that Glenn Simpson was talking to Nuland at the State Department during the campaign, which loops in Hillary Clinton another whole level. I'm getting a text. Hold on. Then in the 302s here, Ohr is noting that there's like trepidation from Steele to come and sit down with Grassley and the committee and testify. And this is at the same time that he's trying to negotiate with the FBI for some kind of full-time contract. God only knows. But during that time, he's also speaking with Waldman and Warner, like we talked about earlier. Ohr doesn't know about that from the 302s. It doesn't appear that Ohr knows. So think about that. Steele is sort of giving this air of confidence to Bruce Ohr when he talks to him, while at the same time is freaking out to his lawyer, Waldman, who was talking to someone else. And when all of this came out that Waldman and Warner were talking with one another, Marco Rubio stepped up and said how everything was just perfectly legit and there was nothing to worry about. Just want to throw that out there for you. Somebody said in here, it's not clear. Ohr also advised blank, an attorney representing blank, explained his client felt blank and were recently complicated by the FBI, blah, 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 blah. And then he says, Ohr said that blank would like to, quote, clean things up and felt the circumstances surrounding the 2016 U.S. presidential election had become too emotional. Too emotional. What do you think? You think that's somebody, I don't know who it could be. This is in February. Who do you think that could possibly be? No idea. Another point that I make in this thread is that they did not redact Glenn Simpson's name in one place, which was telling to me. It either means that he's in a ton of trouble and they just don't care about who knows it, or there's another reason for it. I don't know which. Moving right along. Brennan's orange jumpsuit, hello, 15 pounds to go, says all of the 302s that we knew about because Bruce Ohr had provided, and they were in a list from Grassley here, to the FBI asking for them. The dates are all provided. They go up to the 15th of 2017, and then they stop. And Bruce Ohr had testified that he did sit with agents after that, but he didn't even know apparently they were taking these 302s at all, which is really interesting to me. I think he was stunned that they documented this given what they were doing, which if you think about that for a minute is pretty amazing. And it answers the question. In Bruce Ohr's testimony in the very beginning, Trey Gowdy is sitting there asking him, like, I don't understand. You're a career prosecutor. What made you think it was a good idea for you to place yourself into the chain of custody here? What makes you think that that was possibly something that you should do as a career prosecutor? And he has no answer. He doesn't really have any answer. I just wanted to get the information. I wanted to make sure they got the information. I think that he didn't realize that he was being documented at the time. And there have been a lot of assumptions about who it is that took these 302s down, with people saying it was Gaeta, people saying it was Pienka because they were assigned as his handlers. But there are no names on here. We don't know which special agents took these. So I'm not making any assumptions about that yet, just because it's not clear. It could have been other ones that he said that he talked to outside of those two. Pienka was the same agent that went and interviewed Flynn, which we'll talk about General Flynn at the end of this. Am I boring anybody? Or are we all good? Is everyone good? Okay. The other thing. Interesting that these dates stop 5/15/17. Because what happened just a few days later, the special counsel was appointed. I love you guys. I really do. With a team like this, I don't see how we lose. You guys are fantastic. So the special counsel starts, and all of a sudden the rest of the 302s aren't included anymore. That's super interesting too, because then we know that Ohr may have been working with the special counsel, or the agents that were working this were transferred to the special counsel when Peter Strzok took over at the special counsel, which then kind of allows us to thread that needle a little bit better. Okay? There we go. There's that. The other really interesting thing about these 302 releases and the other sets of Flynn Ohr documents that Judicial Watch got, Judicial Watch was able to settle this lawsuit with the government. What usually happens in cases like what Judicial Watch does day in and day out every day is they FOIA the government for information. What usually happens is they send the FOIA request in, and the government doesn't answer it, or they take forever to answer, or they deny the FOIA request, and then Judicial Watch has to sue them. So yes, they have to take them to court, and they go through this long thing, and then the judge has to rule that they have to produce it, and then there's a production schedule put into place, and it takes forever, and that's how a lot of this stuff goes down. So in this case, at this particular time, what happens actually is that the government, hold on, I'm sorry, guys. The government settles with Judicial Watch and says, you know what? Yeah, we'll give these. We're ready to give these to you guys. We're ready to give you all the documents. I'm going to settle with you guys. And, you know, here's what we're giving you with as minimal redactions as possible. And the fact that they settled this, rather than it having to be forced out of them, given what happened, the declassification, is really, really super poignant to me. Now, the last thing in these 302s that I was able to figure out is that it appears, and we searched, I mean, it could be out there somewhere, but I don't think it is. I spend hours, and friends of mine spend hours trying to find reporting of this at the time that Bruce Ohr says he saw it. Ohr testified that he learned of the Clintons funding the dossier after the election in the newspaper. He says that in his testimony. It's in here. He says, I learned it in the newspaper after the election. He doesn't recall the exact week. He doesn't recall the exact month. It says, I've seen it in the paper. It sounds like from the paper that there were a couple of different people that were paying Fusion GPS to do this at different times. My understanding is that some of the people were connected to the Clinton campaign in some way. I don't recall names. The problem with that is that in November of 2016, there is a 302. There's a 302 written in November of 2016. November, right after the election, before the dossier was released by BuzzFeed, etc. It says, Ohr knew Glenn Simpson hired blank to dig up Trump's connections to Russia. Ohr's wife is a Russian translator and was hired to conduct open source research. Even though she did not know the goal of the project, she was able to surmise the purpose, as the individuals she was researching were very close to Trump. Ohr knew that Glenn Simpson was hired by a lawyer who does opposition research. Ohr knew blank reporting on Trump's ties to Russia were going to the Clinton campaign, John Weiner at the State Department, and the FBI. Ohr was aware that Simpson was passing blank information to many individuals or entities, and at times blank would attend meetings with Simpson. That's, again, the only reporting I can't find any public reporting that the Clinton campaign paid for the dossier before 2017. I can't find it anywhere. So the fact that he learned about it in the paper is a lie. Why is that important? Because in the FISA warrant, the footnote does not talk about Source One's connection to any campaigns. The very first FISA warrant that James Comey and Sally Yates sign does not say that at all. And obviously, Ohr knew it. And obviously, other people knew it. And he's saying it openly to these FBI agents in about September. So, perjury and major FISA fraud here, which we already knew. We already knew that. I cannot wait to read the report. I cannot wait for indictments, criminal indictments. But there's that. Sally Yates and Jim Comey signed the first FISA. The other thing is he like later on in his testimony, he states he tells the FBI that the information was coming with people or from people with connections to the Clinton campaign, which reaffirmed my earlier point. What does he think, that they're doing it for free? He thinks that nobody's paying for it. That part so that's what I got from the 302s that I did a cursory look at. And then we got all this other stuff, and I don't even know how long I've been going for now on you guys. 47 minutes already. For goodness sakes, I'm sorry. So I guess I'll just finish up with a couple things. The other Judicial Watch that released, there were two other ones. This one was 332 pages. And then this is interesting to me because it's a bunch of stuff in here, and I've read it all, and it's about this event that Bruce Ohr is going to speak at overseas, and all of this stuff. But it also includes the fact that Nellie Ohr sent over her research that she did to Bruce Ohr, all of her research that she did, sent over to Bruce Ohr at his DOJ, at his DOJ address, and it's all in here. And what I did was first of all, like what she uses as some sort of like smoking gun that Trump is connected to Russia is nonsense. If you read through this, you'll understand what I mean. But it's all here. And one of the more repeated names in all of this is one Felix Sater. I don't know if you guys have seen all of the work that I've done into Sater. You can go back through my YouTube channel and find it. I've done several threads on Felix Sater. The fact that he was an intelligence asset, very high-level intelligence asset. He was shielded by Loretta Lynch when she was at the FBI, or was a U.S. attorney, I'm sorry. It's a very long story, but basically he's been working for the government, as were many of the other people that we've come across in this escapade. And he's mentioned in here often as sort of a tie back to Trump, but it's not. It's almost like he was there on purpose just to have the plausible deniability, like, oh, he's friends with this person, so obviously then this person. Oh, well, then this, he's worked with this Russian, so then obviously by extension, because he, has talked to Trump, then Trump is guilty of working with this person too. So if you read through and you just do a search for Sater, I found at least 16 in the spreadsheet here where she refers to who the person from Russia is, what their Russian name is, who who it implicates. And then I'll be honest with you, looking through the spreadsheet and seeing how she does her work and seeing how she digs her info, this is what you guys are doing on a daily basis, but like yours is much better. Like this is how, when I research a piece, I lay things out. And this is supposedly a professional. So you guys are doing fantastic. Fantastic. Just keep that in mind. Bayrock is Felix Sater's company, and Bayrock is an entire animal that we could get into in another video that would just take a really long time to explain, but they have a lot of issues. Let's just say that. And Trump basically completely disowned or pushed aside Sater years ago when he was caught up into some gross stuff, and Trump got wind of it and said no more. So his exact quote was something like, sometimes you don't know somebody until you know them, and I don't want anything to do with that guy anymore. And then from there on out, it was always like, I don't know who you're talking about, Sater. I don't know him at all. Like, and that might be true, because I think a lot of the times when Trump says that, it means this person's dead to me. So, you can get all this stuff on Judicial Watch's website, and you can dig through it, and you can take a look at what she's saying. And I could sit here and go through all of her research. You guys would probably fall asleep. And I read it all. And while it's open source research, there are assumptions in here and speculations in here. But when you do open source research, you have to sort of try and weave together the information in some sort of a way. She just chose to do it this way. Nellie Ohr did. And so, like, reading through it, if I were doing her work the way she did it and sitting in her chair, let's just pretend, I would not have been able to move forward to prove they said, look at what you can find about Trump's ties to Russia. And then I did all this work that's detailed out here with Felix Sater and all that stuff and all these pictures and the websites and the models and who they're related to and, all of that. And I'm just like, I would have had to go back to whoever contracted me and said, there's really nothing here. There's a couple things that may be, but there's really nothing solid that I can really latch on to give to you guys that would make an ironclad case about this. So I don't know. And that's what I got from it. You want to know about Russia and some Russians and some things and some people and their Facebook profiles and, what the kind of seedy underbelly of Bayrock is and maybe some John McCain sprinkled in there because of his relationships with Deripaska. This document is for you. Otherwise, don't. It's important that she did it. It's important that she passed it to Bruce Ohr. It's important that she was contracted from Fusion GPS. It's important that she lied in her testimony about when she got her ham radio license. All of that stuff's important. But the content of this, I've read through it. There may be some little tiny clues in here somewhere that you guys can use to put some other things together. But it's here for you if you want to read it, is all I'm saying. And it's interesting. So the next one was just released the other day, and there were a couple emails and stuff in there, and I'm not going to stick on this again because I want to get really quickly to the BOP captain that I interviewed in the Epstein case, and then I want to talk about General Flynn for a second. So let's turn that page and move on to Epstein. This Epstein case is just absolutely crazy. I did my thread my live stream the other day where I talked about how it's the media's fault that everybody's wildly speculating and nobody really knows who to believe. That's all true. Because of that thread, I initiated contact with a former BOP captain, Bureau of Prisons. It's a federal Bureau of Prisons, and he went on the record with his name, Scott Lyon. He worked there for 25 years. He just recently retired this past October, and I was able to ask him a bunch of different questions about policy and procedure inside of a BOP facility that answered some of the open questions that were laying out there about what the hell happened inside of this. Like, many of you guys don't know what it's like to be inside one of these federal prisons because you're not criminals, okay? Right? So I didn't know What do the doors lock like? What does his door look like? What kind of beds are in there? What do they give them to sleep with? Is it true that they only give them paper sheets? What are the suicide watch, criteria? And I'm looking at all these people on Fox News and on CNN, and they're asking these people who've been retired for like 30 years and don't know the policy and procedure anymore, what it's like to be there at BOP. And I'm hearing all this rumor, and I have this account on my website here from this guy, Scott, who was a great man to talk to, and I credit him for putting his name out there. He showed me his credentials. He proved himself that he's legit. And then we have, I have someone else that I know personally who I was asking these questions to separately and didn't know that I had already done this because it wasn't up yet, and answered the same exact way for the most part. Okay? So I know that the information is good because I've gotten it confirmed now twice. With that being said, I still have a gazillion questions about what happened to Jeffrey Epstein. I think like all of you do. And I'm not ready to come to any sort of a conclusion yet on what that might be. But I'm not going to stop trying to find out. He was alone in his cell. Scott Lyon said that they really don't like doing that for specifically the reason of self-harm. So they really always try to partner people up inside of their cell. When you're a pedophile, it is not easy to pair you with somebody because it's frowned upon in prison culture, basically, or dynamics, as he called them, prison dynamics. You can't group certain groups together because one group doesn't like the other group, or there's racism, or there's whatever it is. You can't put certain people together because the risk of the fighting is worse than, or the killing or the murder that way is worse than the suicide risk. I asked him how many prisoners do they know, or does he know, that were taken off of suicide watch so quickly after an attempted suicide, as they told us, right? And he told me that it's very common. He said probably 80% of the time. He said that a lot of the times these people are not trying to commit suicide to kill themselves. They're just doing it for attention, to be moved, to change their circumstances, etc. He also said that you need to get into that facility, to get into the hallway, you have to open the door from both sides. So like there needs to be an agent on the inside of the hallway and one on the outside of the hallway. And both of them need to open the door. His cell door would have been locked, so nobody would have been able to enter without the key. And then there were immediate reports that the cameras weren't working, that nothing was being seen on them, etc., so on and so forth, and that the logs were falsified. And what he told me is it would not be uncommon for these cameras to be malfunctioning because of the budget constraints and things like that they have. However, he is pretty sure if the reporting was correct, that was not the case and the cameras were functioning, only because they knew that these agents were sleeping on the job and they knew that they falsified the logs. And you're not allowed to have a camera on the cell because of a law called the Prison Rape Enforcement Act, which stops you from taping inside of cells. So they could only camera the hallway. And if the cameras weren't working, there would have been absolutely no way for them to know that these guards fell asleep and that they falsified the log saying that they weren't. There's that. What does that mean? It means that unless somebody had the credentials, the key, whatever, to get into these places, then there's no way for them to have been able to do it, which eliminates for me the possibility of somebody who was not working there. And Scott might get upset with me because Scott voiced to me that he doesn't think that there's anything, that he thinks that Jeffrey Epstein really killed himself. That's what Scott Lyon believes from the BOP. He doesn't think there's anything nefarious going on in terms of that. He thinks what happens is, he told me that he thinks that Jeffrey Epstein wasn't expecting to kill himself and timed his attempt to be when the guards were walking by, and then they didn't walk by and he just went too far. In terms of the broken neck and what Frank said on the podcast, Frank said that he has a friend that was inside the jail who would have taken custody of Epstein if Epstein had lived. And he said that his entire neck was broken all the way around. Like, I forget the exact words he used. It's on the podcast from yesterday. You guys can go and listen to it. Which adds a whole nother dynamic to the story. So there's that. The one other thing that I wanted to finish up with you. Oh, the guard, not a guard thing. Let me clear that up as well. I asked him, he actually offered that information up very quickly. He said he wanted to clear that up. Every single employee inside a BOP facility is trained as a correction officer first. So even if they end up in the kitchen or in the infirmary or wherever they end up, they are Donna D'Alelio, I'm watching. They are trained to be a corrections officer first. So even if it was not a typical, like what you would call a normal everyday on the job corrections officer, it's still, they're still trained that way. In terms of the jumpsuit, the orange jumpsuit that I kind of, okay, Donna, I can't stop my entire stream, so you can go ahead and share it with me and I'll read it in the chat. Okay. So basically, they wouldn't find the policy and procedure on the website. You wouldn't be able to find the policy and procedure for special housing unit dress on the website for security reasons. So that being said, every BOP facility puts their special housing unit prisoners in, I'll tell you about the paper sheets too, in orange uniform. So while the rest of the population is in the gray or the green or the navy, the rest of the facility is in orange, or the special housing unit is in orange. And then he also said that the bed sheet that he would have used is a standard issue bed sheet, not the paper thin sheets, because he wasn't on suicide watch anymore. So he was alone in his cell. He wasn't on suicide watch. He would have had a standard bed sheet. And I asked him, standard like what? Like, what's the thread count? What would be the thread count on a sheet, you know? And he said, like your home, a standard bed sheet, you know, regular, like, you know, cheapo bed sheet that you'd buy. So he had a regular sheet. And there's only, in the article I wrote, you can also read, there's only a few cells in the entire SHU that are single bed cells because they try to room people together to avoid this kind of a situation. So it's likely he was in a double bunk, for whatever that means to you guys. What else was really interesting in here? I'm working on with a couple people, actually, on a couple of other angles for this story and more information. Deja vu. More information on the story, so please stay tuned and I'll have more of that stuff for you. Now, I just wanted to share with you that I tweeted out this morning that this for General Flynn. Oh, let me say one more thing before I get to Flynn. In terms of Epstein, a lot of people doubted the information that was given to me by Scott. And, you know, I understand why people are distrusting. However, in this case, honestly, this is a man who came forward with 25 years experience, literally nothing to gain by putting his name out there, and answered all those questions on the record. You guys can take that however you want. There are some things in there that are just factual, based off someone with a 25-year career in the industry, in the facility. So I don't know what to do otherwise to try and help you to feel like you've got the information you need about at least the conditions inside of a standard BOP facility, not the, you know, the conditions in terms of rodents and mice and all that stuff, and possums, the conditions in terms of, or the policy and procedure across it. That's there. Okay. Sidney Powell tweeted this morning, I just want to get this out there. The Flynn family appreciates everyone who contributes to his legal defense fund and the outpouring of support from across the country. Given recent reports and comments General Flynn and Sidney Powell will not be speaking at the Digital Soldiers Conference in Atlanta on September 14th. There were some really gross statements made by Rich Granville from Yippee. And so because of that, General Flynn has decided not to appear at this conference. And I retweeted it, and I just wanted to just give people a heads up that he was going to speak here, and it was going to be a fundraiser for his legal defense fund. If you guys want to and you feel comfortable, it's not me saying you really should do this. Make a donation to General Flynn's defense fund if you want to, if you can, if you feel comfortable, just to help him. If you don't, then don't. Just give it a thought, $10, whatever it is that you guys can, $5, $1, if you want to, if you feel comfortable, if you want to. I don't think I can make it more clear, but I'm not telling you what you got to do. I'm just suggesting that this was going to be an event where they thought that they may be able to raise some money for the defense fund off the ticket sales, and it's not happening anymore. So it may be good if you were thinking of doing it anyway to do it now and help them out. And that's it. So there's that. That's all I got for you today. I could probably talk to you for another 3 hours, and I'm not going to do that. So that being said, if you guys appreciate the work I do and you would like to become a patron, I would be honored to have you. You can find me on Patreon at patreon.com/TracyBeans with a Z. You guys can do paypal.me/TracyBeans. As always, and will always be, everything that I do is freely available to everyone. I do not charge for this. I do not charge for my information. If you like what I do and want to keep me doing this full time, people voluntarily support me every month. And I am absolutely blessed beyond measure that that's the case. So I just wanted to let you guys know. You can find my website at uncoverdc.com, uncoverdc.com. That's my media company. It is chugging along like a train, a freight train on the tracks, baby. And there's so much good stuff coming up at Uncover DC. So make sure you keep your eyes peeled there. Otherwise, have a fantastic rest of the day. I love you guys very much. And this is not the last you'll hear from me. I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.